welcome back to the channel. You are watching Tubes Time. And
I'm Asher.
And I'm Jessie. And today we're going to be spending some time in the kitchen. It's a cook with me style video, and we're going to be doing a lot of home cooking from scratch. I hope you enjoy.
Cook with us.
Cook with us. Alright guys, as you can see here, this meal prep actually started early in the morning. There I am getting my cup of coffee in before starting on this English muffin recipe that is from Farmhouse on Boone. I don't know if you follow her blog or not, but she also has a YouTube channel, so you definitely need to check her out. She has some amazing sourdough recipes. But this recipe is for an English muffin, and I started the dough the night before. The dough required me mixing my sourdough starter, flour, and some water, and then here I am adding in the honey and salt and baking soda and just giving it a good hand mixing. You could do this with a KitchenAid with a dough hook to make it a little bit easier, but I just used my hands this morning. One of my favorite parts about this recipe is that it requires cast iron to cook the muffins in rather than just a baking sheet in the oven. So this cast iron skillet I had preheated in the oven at around 400 degrees, and then I just melted some coconut oil in there to give the biscuits a sear. And once all the biscuits were placed in there, on one side you leave them for about 10 minutes. The goal is to only have to flip them once, and here I am cooking breakfast at the same time for the boys. I was frying an egg there, and you can see that the boys like to join me in the mornings. Here's my 8-month-old Callum, and he is nibbling on the food as I'm cooking. Both boys will join me for this video. I like to say that Callum likes being in the kitchen where he can eat, and then Asher likes to be in the kitchen where he can make a mess. Whatever the reason, I love having them in there with me. So here I am just flipping over those muffins. They've been in there, like I said, for about 10 minutes. And the goal is that they will just sear nice and slow on low. And if they don't cook completely in the inside during that time they're searing and you don't want them to burn, you can put them in the oven at around 400 degrees for about 5 minutes just to make sure it cooks through. So after the muffins were done cooking and the boys all got a little bit to eat, I started on baking my sourdough loaf that I had prepared the day before. I have tried to make it a goal to cook sourdough bread, a few loaves every week. So 2 to 3 loaves for my family where we can have delicious sourdough sandwiches. And also I really like to make paninis with them during the week for lunches. My sourdough is baked in a Dutch oven. I usually have it baked with the lid on in the Dutch oven for about 30 minutes at 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I will remove the lid and bake it for an additional 20 minutes at a little bit of a lower temperature. Not only is sourdough absolutely delicious and good for your gut, it is just so beautiful. What have y'all been doing while Mama's been cooking?
Playing. I need my sweater back.
God sure knew what he was doing when he made me a boy mama. I love it so much. Once we got some playing out of the way and got dressed for the day, Asher helped me make a sourdough coffee crumble cake, and it was absolutely delicious. I will definitely link the recipe. It is another Farmhouse on Boone recipe. I can't tell you how much I have learned from following her on YouTube and her blog. And major props to her. She is a mom of 7 kiddos, and she still manages to get all this stuff done. Amazing. Next up, I started to make a homemade pizza crust from my sourdough discard that I had left in the refrigerator. This clip is just showing me preheating my skillets to make that crust with. We never let that sourdough discard go to waste in our house. There's so many recipes that you can use with it. I really like to make sourdough discard crackers, and the pizza crust is quickly becoming a favorite. So while those skillets were preheating, I went ahead and started dicing up some smoked grilled chicken that my husband had prepared the day before. This chicken I will end up using in some pesto quesadillas for this meal prep. I just like to place those quesadillas in the freezer, and then you can heat them up in an air fryer on 400 degrees for about 4 or 5 minutes, and they come out delicious and crispy. It's become one of our favorite meal prep items. So here I am making some homemade pesto to go in those quesadillas. So here is my basil that I had picked from the garden the day before. I'd put it in a bag in the refrigerator where it wouldn't dry out after I had cleaned it. Then I'm mixing in my walnuts. I have a video on YouTube that I had posted with the recipe for this pesto, and I use pine nuts in the original recipe, but I've started using walnuts because they are a little bit easier to find and they are more affordable. Here is the Parmesan cheese going in. Next, I just add in some olive oil along with some lemon juice, and you add salt and pepper to taste, and then you just blend it up. Here is that coffee crumble cake that I had baked earlier. It was finally finished, and it was perfect for breakfast during this busy week ahead. Now that my skillets were finished preheating, I was able to go ahead and start making that sourdough pizza crust from my discard. So I just take a ladle and just start ladling it into those really hot skillets. And you have to move kind of fast because since it is so hot, it starts baking right away. Once you have poured all of the discard into the skillet, then you can just take your fingers and move it around to fill out the skillet. And once you have done that, you can start to add a little bit of olive oil, spread it around, and then add some salt and pepper to taste and any other herbs that you might have on hand. And then you just bake it in the oven. You can see that it's nice and bubbly. That's what I love about sourdough. Here I am just placing it in the oven at 400 degrees to bake for about 10 minutes. It's pretty quick, and then it's ready to go and add all your toppings. Next up is my Quesadilla Prep. So I had already cut up that chicken and blended up that pesto, and I'm just putting the pesto on all of these flour tortillas and kind of making a little assembly line. And I don't know if you can see those little feet in the video, but Callum was definitely at my feet there while I was preparing these. He did say mama this week, so he was probably just busy talking. Can't express enough how much these meal preps and any freezer meals that I always prepare in advance end up helping me during the stage in motherhood that I am in and being self-employed. I seem to be so busy and caught up, and dinner gets here before I even realize it. So it is so nice at dinner time to just be able to grab something and heat it up for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we have a nice home-cooked meal. You can add any of your favorite toppings to these types of quesadillas. That's what I love about them. They're so versatile. Here I am just adding some sharp cheddar because that's one of our favorites. You can also add some grilled onions. I like to add rice to mine. I did add rice to these. Pre-cooked wild rice is my favorite, as you see there. Once I get them all folded up, then they are ready to just be seared on the skillet and then wrapped up in some tin foil and placed in the freezer. One thing that is not my favorite, I don't think it's anyone's favorite, is washing dishes. That part of meal prep is not fun, but I do find if I do it as I go, then I don't tend to have such a big mess at the end to clean up. Plus, the fact that I have a cutie like this helping me out, it does make the job a little bit easier and a lot more fun. Callum was enjoying the rest of that rice that was left in the bowl. He really likes it. He's gonna be just like his carb-loving mama. Find the bowl? And here are those pizza crusts from that sourdough discard. They come out really nicely, and then I just place them in an oven at 400 degrees and cook them for about 10 minutes. And then they are ready for toppings to go on them. They are seriously delicious and so easy to make. I like to add marinara to the top of mine, like a pizza sauce. I would love it if I was able to make this homemade this year, but unfortunately our tomatoes just haven't done very well. So store-bought it is. I used mozzarella right here, just store-bought. Actually, I'm so excited for September to get here because we are going to be making a lot more homemade cheese on the homestead, so I should be able to have my own homemade mozzarella. It has been so weird. For the first time in a year and a half, we do not have a cow and milk on our property. So, and around the middle of September, we are supposed to have Autumn give birth to a calf, and I really can't wait to have her back in milk and giving us all that delicious cream. All right, so next up, I decided to make some rice for that pesto. I was gonna make like a pesto chicken rice that would just be delicious paired with a roll or just a slice of sourdough bread. I have made this rice before and it was just such a big hit. We really just love anything with homemade pesto. It can make even something as simple as rice an absolutely delicious meal. And here I am finally getting around to searing those quesadillas. It literally only takes a couple of minutes to get this job done, and then they are ready to be wrapped up and placed in the freezer. And we like to take them out and just put them in the air fryer, like I said earlier, and they are delicious. I absolutely love using my air fryer to reheat just about anything. I've kind of become addicted to it. Not so sure what our grandmothers would think of us using an air fryer, but hey, it works. Sometimes you just have to take advantage of the technology around you. And here I am just mixing up some refried beans that I had started a little bit earlier in the day in the oven, just getting them ready for some cheese to be put in there and a little bit of seasoning, and then they're ready to go. I like to have these on hand because they work out great for feeding my 8-month-old. He absolutely loves them as well as my 3-year-old toddler. He never complains about them. He just likes me to put extra cheese. Here I am just giving that rice a stir, and then I am putting in that pesto and gonna cook it for a couple more minutes in the microwave. Usually takes me about 5 minutes with the pesto mixed in, and then it'll be ready to just mix some chicken in, and then it's ready to eat. The way that I found that these quesadillas keep best in the freezer, I mean, I've literally had them keep for up to around 6 to 8 months with no problem. They could probably go longer, but I like to just wrap them individually into tinfoil, and then I just place them in a freezer-friendly Ziploc bag, or sometimes I will even Silamil them, depending on how long I plan on going without eating these. These I just put in a Ziploc, as you can see there, and that was just because I knew we would be eating them during this week and possibly have a few for the next weeks to follow. Once that chicken got mixed in, I was ready to go ahead and freeze a little bit because I had made quite a bit. So I wanted to have enough for the dinner for the next couple days, and then I wanted to freeze some. And you can see there, I absolutely love those Ziploc holders. They are wonderful when you're meal prepping. I will link any of the stuff that I'm using in the description if you would like to purchase your own. I highly recommend those Ziploc bag holders. They have been a lifesaver, especially when you're doing those freezer meal preps for like crock pot meals. They're great. Okay, so we had some very ripe, over-ripened, should I say, bananas on hand. So I had a little bit of extra time, so I decided to make some banana nut bread. We absolutely love putting banana nut bread in the freezer and then taking it out like the night before we know we're gonna have a busy morning, and then just eating it for breakfast along with maybe a side of bacon or ham. Over the past couple of months, this has actually became one of the more common breakfast items that we've been having, and that's mostly because I buy a ton of bananas. They are a good price in the store right now because they are in season, and not to mention they are like the easiest baby food in the world for my little boy. So sometimes we don't get to all of them, and I do not like to waste them. So once they have become a little too ripe is when I decide to make this delicious homemade nut bread. Now, my husband, he likes to eat it with no nuts, and I absolutely love having walnuts in there. So I always make 2 loaves, 1 loaf without nuts and then 1 with nuts. Alright, so the best way that I have found to freeze this banana nut bread is to just wrap it up a couple times in saran wrap and then put it straight in the freezer. It never stays in the freezer very long at our house. And here is the last meal prep item of the day. This was way later in the evening, like 8 o'clock at night. I decided to go ahead and make up some lime popsicles. We absolutely have loved these this summer, having them on hand, and not to mention they are just so much cheaper than buying them at the store. I can make them for less than 10 cents a piece. All that I put in them is water, some sugar, and lime juice to taste, either with fresh limes or just from a concentrate, whatever you may have on hand. Pour them up in these wonderful silicone molds that I got off of Amazon. I'll have the link provided. They are awesome. They also came with some little extra holders as well, so that was quite convenient. And then I just put them right into the freezer, and they're ready to go and have on hand when we come inside from possibly picking the garden in the hot sun. Well, that is a wrap, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Say bye.
Oh, you want to say bye? Okay.
Say bye, kid. I hope you have a good time doing your cooking.
Doing your cooking.
I hope you have fun at your house.
God bless you guys.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.